So Guillaume Souda has been working since 2006 as a software and airborne electronic hardware expert in the Certification Directorate of the European Aviation Safety Agency, so ESA. In 2014, he was appointed software senior expert, and since then, is in charge of the coordination of the software aspects of certification within the agency. He was a member of the EuroCAE Workgroup 71 joint committee with the RTCA SC205 that produced the software standard ED12C or DO178C, which are really the cornerstone for software certification. Is currently leading the EASA task force on artificial intelligence with the objective of implementing the EASA AI roadmap. And he's also a member of the joint EuroCAE Workgroup 114 and the SAE G34, like Vaid was. It's a working group on artificial intelligence. And prior to joining EASA, Guillaume worked for 5 years as software engineer in the development of automatic flight control system in the European rotorcraft industry. It's my pleasure now to leave the floor to Guillaume for his presentation. So it's 25 minutes and 5-minute questions. If you can try to stick to it, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Giant. And I'm really glad to be with you today. I prepared a couple of slides actually to talk about, in a wider sense, the challenges of certifying AI solutions in aviation. Romaric already gave you a flavor of that, and indeed the roadmap that you will see presented here is quite ambitious in terms of timing, because we have quite a number of issues to solve in the meantime. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So just a quick outline of the presentation. First, taking a step back and looking at the context of innovation in aviation, then focusing a bit more on the EASA AI roadmap, which probably most of you are already familiar with, and then digging into mainly the challenges that we identified, the main ones, I would say, in the sense that we have a really high number of challenges to tackle, as we could see already in the two previous presentations. What I tried to do is to illustrate some of them with some work we've done with a startup, Daedalin, in an IPC, so in an innovation partnership contract, which helped us to, I would say, characterize a bit clearer what are those challenges that we highlighted in the roadmap. And also, you will see with the next part of the presentation, linking those challenges to the building blocks that we have theorized in the AI trustworthiness concept of our EASA AI roadmap. After, I will just make a quick conclusion and a perspective on the workshop this week. So first, looking again at the wider picture, the context and the emergence of AI in a, I would say, in a context and in an environment which is extremely active in terms of research and innovation. We can see here on the side what drives directly AI, which is the digital transformation, the so-called fourth industrial revolution that comes with a number of I would say evolutions, like the access to a wider amount of data, the so-called big data, of course, the wide use of AI, also in conjunction with this with data analysis, the swarm intelligence, biometrics capacities, virtual certification, remote oversight, digital safety management tools, and so on. So this is directly impacting the full spectrum of aviation companies, of course, and the EASA also in its core activities. And this digital transformation is not coming alone, but with something that is more related to society and some societal transformations. Of course, the COVID situation that we have lived so far since nearly a year has also come its way and will have its impact on this side. But even before this crisis that we will have to overcome together, we saw some changing patterns in the mobility with, for example, the emergence of urban air mobility projects or future capacities, the rising of ecological and regional consciousness also in commercial air transport, which links me or brings me directly to the next transformation, which is the climate transformation with the EU Green Deal, with the objective of climate neutrality by 2050, which is a challenge in itself. And of course, aspects of sustainability and the global threats in terms of climate, which I would say brings and links also to another transformation, which is the technological transformation. In order also to address climate transformation, we see the industry very active in coming up with solutions, for example, on the propulsion side with hybrid electrics, and more recently a focus on hydrogen-powered aircraft with some projects that we see in the pipelines, including the one from Airbus. And designs, and of course, the emergence of the drones market, which is really pushing also towards what you see after autonomous systems, but not only from the drone side, obviously, because we already saw projects in commercial air transport that are promising and will need also to be accompanied. And AI actually is not a single line of text in the digital transformation. It's embracing really the different transformations. And I would say that AI, I can see, and we can see from an EASA perspective, it as a tool and an enabler actually for some aspects of these transformations. In terms of readiness and the capability of EASA to deal with these transformations and challenges, we've already almost 2 years ago now, in 2018, came up with a new basic regulation that was endorsed by the Commission, which opens actually with 2 articles, mainly, in particular 2 articles, the 86 and 87, focuses us and opens tools and capabilities on the side of research and innovation and environment. So that's the big picture. And now focusing on AI itself, that's all this context has triggered from an EASA side the need to come up with a roadmap, which was a first, I would say, accountants of EASA with artificial intelligence. So we looked at definitions first, and we very quickly scoped our first version of the roadmap on machine learning, meaning that machine learning is not, of course, the overall picture of artificial intelligence, which is wider than that and much wider actually. But we could see that the first applications and the big projects we received first were focusing on the capabilities of deep learning. And so we focused this first and initial release of the roadmap on machine learning, knowing that there are some other aspects like symbolic AI that were mentioned by Romaric, under which we will put more focus probably in the coming years. So focusing on this first scope of machine learning, and with some assumptions that are, I think, the strong assumptions taken by everyone in the field of addressing safety critical or safety related applications, supervised learning, no adaptivity, and really freezing models in order to make them as determined up. And gathering then the challenges that were linked with the use of machine learning solutions for safety-related applications in those various domains. And we very quickly noticed actually that the challenges in the various domains are very, very similar. There is a factorization there, as there is also a factorization, of course, and as we saw with the presentation of Aid, with other domains like automotive, but we have also medical, nuclear, railway, etc., that are also sharing the same statement of concern. That's what we can see the more we look aside and we discuss with stakeholders. The timeline and action plan has been put forward in this roadmap, and I will now switch directly to this slide. In terms of time frame and milestones we foresaw, it's based actually on one of the prognostic we could see from industry side, based here on large aircraft commercial air transport. So the major stakeholders that we discussed with, and in particular Airbus, were foreseeing the first approval for let's say cockpit embedded functions, more for support actually to the pilot by 2025. So that's the first date and milestone we've set here. And then looking at single pilot commercial air transport operations by 2030 and ramping up by 2035 to more autonomous and autonomous, probably fully autonomous commercial air transport operations. The dates are probably, I would say, an anticipation, which we need, of course, to see if it holds. And that's what Romaric was saying. It's already extremely aggressive to try to be ready by 2025 for the first approvals. Nevertheless, we considered it and we looked at the ATM roadmap, we looked at different roadmaps, and we saw that whatever we do, we need to create this readiness by 2025, whatever we do. And that's the reason why we came up with the first, let's say, a three-phase approach. The first phase looking and focusing on the exploratory aspects and the first guidance development in partnership with all our stakeholders. And that looks like three, I would say, milestones. So we split this exploratory phase in three further milestones that are linked to three levels AI that we identified and anticipate. Those levels, just to be very clear, are not an automation level. They might be matching, let's say, top level enough to match several possible automation schemes in the background. But the point here was more to characterize the type of usage of AI and machine learning in order to split it in more or less, I would say, complexity levels, so in progressive and increasing complexity levels. The first of AI machine learning, human assistance augmentation. The second type is about more human-machine collaboration. And the third type about more autonomous machine. So the first milestone you can see is for this year, and I will talk about it a bit more in detail. So we are really focusing on level 1 for now, and we will ramp up to level 2 during this year and within 2022. Looking now at the second phase, it will be a framework consolidation. So here, going for more, I would say, formal rulemaking activities in order to finalize the guidance for those different levels of AI. And we foresee also a third phase, which might pop up a bit earlier than that, pushed by the evolution of technology. But due to the dynamic field of innovation in AI, we can see that we will need to create a capability to evaluate those evolutions and to take them on board. So that's the roadmap top level considerations. And now focusing a bit more, I would say, on the technical challenges that we see. And I focused really on some of them. It's not an exhaustive list. And I tried to extract some of the aspects of the Codan IPC report that I mentioned before with the company Daedalin in order to illustrate a bit clearer what challenges we can see. We have first a paradigm shift. So it's a paradigm shift from programming to learning. It's a bit of a simplistic view, but I like this picture of, in order to show the major difference we can see between programming or traditional programming, where we are based on a set of rules and model specifications, we are programming an intended behavior. And actually with machine learning and deep learning, we are kind of reversing reverting this view, where we actually focus more on this intended behavior as an input through a set of data. And we come up then with a model of how the system should be behaving. So that's something that totally reverts the shift and makes our development assurance frameworks not adapted to deal with learning processes. sets. Of course, that's something we saw also in the two first presentations, and how to get confidence in the intended function of a set of model parameters. So that's a set of questions. They are much wider than that. What we theorized actually through the roadmap and through the IPC with Daedalin, and which is confirmed, I would say, with the working group effort we've done so far in the WG 114 and G34. We've come up with a learning assurance concept and process, which we characterized here by a W-shaped. That's a way to see it, and there are probably others. But the important thing here is below the dotted line to characterize the different steps of a learning process in order to address them dedicatedly in a set of guidelines. We start, for example, with the data management. Oh, sorry, some animations are popping up. Yes, the data management step is a crucial step, of course, because we are handling data sets. The learning process management and the model training have really a set of constraints and steps to manage properly. And of course, in the first ramping up of the W, due to a first learning process verification. And one thing I always say by presenting this diagram, there will be a huge and highly iterative and interactive actually capacity here. The processes will clearly not be in a waterfall mode, but with a lot of interaction up to the level of requirements. We then enter in the second part of the W with a model implementation, which will, let's say, concern more traditional software and hardware considerations, but with dedicated aspects regarding learning assurance, and with an inference model verification and the final data verification whenever we come to this step. With requirements verification, requirements management being more managed in a traditional way through development assurance, but below the dotted line, we need this additional set of guidance. Safety assessment process, of course, is integral to this learning assurance. A second challenge, which is the lack of predictability and predictability of machine learning models, due mainly, of course, to the statistical nature of learning processes. So based on a set of samples, let's say a training set that is available, and the loss function, we can come to an empirical error of the internal or in sample set of data. And obviously, the data distribution and the real data distribution true might be completely different, and the expected loss, which is unknown or could be estimated, will end up in a different place with a generalization gap that you can see in between. So how can we guarantee an adequate behavior of the trained model on unseen operational inputs? That's the major question that is behind this diagram. The possible solution that was discussed with Daedalin within the frame of the IPC is to work on generalization guarantees. First, to work on the proper data set management to draw some conclusions on the distribution we have in terms of data, but also based on the model performance during the design phase, and through the generalization guarantee, there is a possibility to guarantee some performance during the operational phase, which is crystallized somehow in this equation here, the capability to manage this gap, this generalization gap, and to bound it with a given probability. So that's something we were working on, and concluding also that it might not be easy to create such bounds or to use such bounds today, because they, on the one hand, might be too wide to provide the necessary guarantees for managing safety, but they might also be sometimes not anticipating the real generalization of complex models like neural networks. So there is quite a field of research in the background here, and also alternative methods that could be used. Going to the challenge number 3, bias and variance in machine learning models. I think you are the specialist, and I don't need to tell you what is bias and variance. But the real question is how to evaluate this bias and the variance in data sets and also in the trained models, and how to deal with the bias and the variance trade-off. So here it's just a representation we used in the Codan report to show a model that would be with high bias. Let's take the model is a linear model. It has an inherent bias due to the considerations we had is we should address it in the different steps of the design. It's not only limited to the model itself, but the data set management is a huge step for ensuring and detecting inherent bias in the data and possible variance. Same thing for a trained model. At the level of the trained model, bias and variance needs to be tackled during the learning management and the training verification steps. It's not an easy task. We don't know the ground truth. We may have an idea of averaging some models, but it might be only an estimation of what the average model could be. And the bias and variance trade-off prevents from solving both the bias and variance simultaneously. So I think you are all completely aware of these problems, and we saw that some methods are available, but that this is another field, another challenge on which there is a huge need for further investigation. The fourth challenge, and I don't know how I lie in time, still a bit of time. How robust is the learning algorithm to changes in the training data set, and how robust is the trained model? So we need to address it also at different levels, at the level of the algorithm selection and at the level of the model selection. Here it's also an illustration with a similar linear model like in the previous case, just creating a classification between two types of data. Removing one of the training points that is a bit outstanding here, we may have quite a perturbation on the resulting model, and that shows a poor robustness, I would say, to a perturbation in the training. Whereas this model seems or appears to be much more stable or robust to, for example, a perturbation that would occur, a shift, for example, in the data in operations due, for example, to the change of a camera if we are talking about computer vision. So this is something we understood as well. Is there are many ways of addressing it. We saw that also in the presentation of Romaric, so I will not spend much time on it. You have different groups or groups of verification methods. The ones based on white box testing, really systematically testing the behavior at the output of the model, so the extrinsic, but also considering architecture-dependent properties. Falsification and adversarial attacks is another group of verification. And formal verification is a promising path, but what we could notice in the first evaluation and discussions with industry is that the current examples of formal verification tends to provide either local or non-really scalable results when model complexity increases. So that's another piece of work. And actually, that's what you will address all along the week. The fifth challenge, and I went a bit quickly on this one. It's a very, very wide topic, explainability of machine learning models. And the first thing is, of course, to define explainability. That's one of the things we attempt to do in the deliverable we are preparing. I just took this example that is quite famous, and you may have already seen from an interesting paper, Why Should I Trust You? Explaining the predictions of any classifier. And in one case, actually, here the reason for misclassification is not maybe the interesting part, because it was triggered on purpose in order to verify something in the background. So here, the classifier was detecting wolves easily when there was a white, snowy black background, and misclassifying huskies for wolves when this background was present on a husky picture, because the husky pictures provided to the classifier were actually non-related to a white background. So the reason for the lack of robustness here is obvious. However, there was an investigation or estimation of the trust of the people using that model before and after providing this explanation. And that's an interesting thing, showing that we need to probably dedicatedly also focus on this human-machine interaction. And that's the focus we want to put on this explainability block. And I summed up very quickly here on a picture the fact that there are first very important aspects to consider on the role of the human receiving. And here we characterize 4 roles that will be most of the case present in the different aviation let's say applications we foresee. The developer and manufacturer, the operator of the system, the certification authority, and the safety investigation authority. And ramping up to consider what those roles could receive and could need as an explanation, we identified at least 4 layers. It's far from being a final picture. One linked to learning assurance, which we discussed before with the W-shaped, and some aspects of learning assurance might need to be pushed even further in order to get to the level of explainability. Learning assurance is an explainability in itself. It's a global explanation, actually, which is a good thing. However, we may need some local explanations taken out of this learning assurance in order to provide the right level of information at the right time. ODD, so operational design domain monitoring, is another type of explanation very relevant, for example, to a system operator. And then we come to the specific human factors assessment. So for airborne activities or airborne type of applications, we already have quite an history of human-machine interaction and human factors assessment. We will dig into, or we will use or reuse part of what we have, but it needs to be extended because we consider different and all the domains of aviation at once, and not only certification of airborne systems or airborne products. And finally, we added a layer of data recording, which might be more an a posteriori type of explanation, but will be needed at some point for cert authorities, but mainly for safety investigation authorities. I think I get badly in the timing, sorry, Giant, so I will now go quite quickly on this one, but showing that if we put together those let's say challenges and issues that we identified, like the learning paradigm shift, model generalizability, bias and variance mitigation, and model robustness, we have something like a bit of a skeleton for one of the building blocks of the roadmap, which is the learning assurance. We could do the same for explainability with a human-machine interface, data recording requirements, and actually more than that, which would be the skeleton on which we can put a skin explainability. We will talk at some point, but maybe less for level 1 type of applications with residual risk mitigation and innovative approaches to safety risk mitigation. Another building block that you know from the roadmap is the trustworthiness analysis, which embeds adaptations to safety analysis for learning processes, ethical considerations on machine learning, and I will not spend a lot of time but just mentioning that we took the EC, the European Commission ethical guidelines from the high-level group from the European Commission as an input, a direct input to the ethical considerations we will have on machine learning application in our guidelines. Some of them are related to some of the technical building blocks. Some of them are related to the trustworthiness analysis. This is a huge field also of I didn't mention it as a direct challenge, but it is one. And the adaptations, of course, on information security analysis to learning processes. So all of that creates the AI trustworthiness analysis building block. And you could see in the roadmap, we've tempered a bit the learning assurance, explainability, and safety risk mitigations with potentiometers, because some of the characteristics of the AI application, criticality, type of AI, etc., might push us to turn the potentiometers and to proportionate, of course, the whole framework of technical building blocks. So all of that creates the EASA Trustworthy AI building blocks, which you could see already in the roadmap. And I will rush to a conclusion here that we identified a number of challenges linked with the use of machine learning models. Surely the list is not exhaustive, provides an initial statement of issue based on all the discussions we could have with our stakeholders so far. The possible solutions that are, for some, highlighted in this presentation, but so many more are in the pipelines, will have to be evaluated and further investigated. And we see research and academic field will help us a lot on that. EASA prepares currently the publication of a first set of usable guidelines. So the first set of objectives and anticipated means of compliance, mainly to, I would say, to provide a framework and to structure, and mainly also to help structuring our applicants, because we already received applications and we have projects ongoing with deep learning applications on which we crucially lack guidance and framework for now. So this is the first goal by publishing. Focused on level 1 AI machine learning applications, expected for the end of Q1 2021. We will strive to meet this deadline, even if we are not completely, I would say, even if we have not solved everything we wanted to solve from our perspective in terms of creating this framework, because we will anyway have the capability, and it will be a basis for future work to prepare the next level, so level 2, level 3 guidance, and also to exercise the guidelines with all our stakeholders on use cases, in particular in the ongoing certification projects. So maturation will come over time, but we want to take, I would say, and to give and provide our applicants already a first framework that they can work with and help us maturing. On the Robust AI workshop, as presented here, we have many challenges to tackle. AI robustness is one of the key issues that require further focus. So promising methods exist, but require actually more investigations to ensure scalability and generalization. And the excellent technical presentations that we could see already on the Robust AI website are really promising for interesting discussions in this frame, in the frame of this workshop. And we welcome, of course, the organization of such a workshop, and are really grateful for the opportunity to participate, at least partially. Sorry, I will not be able to stay with you for the next days, but happy to talk about the EASA roadmap today and to answer questions if you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. A bit like Romaric, we will have to maybe skip the questions, but you will have the whole panel session to ask your questions to Guillaume, as you may want also to do with Romaric. Thank you again, and we'll come back to you after the next presentation and the pause on the panel session. Thank you very much.